changed everything. It changed everything because I had a tool now for when I started feeling anxious.
Right.
Right. So I was able to connect to my breath. I was able to remember, okay, I'm starting to feel something here. I'm starting to feel a little out of control. I'm going to connect to my breath, because that's what breath work's all about. It's teaching you that you have a power with you everywhere you go. And that's your breath. Right. Your emotions start running high. You start feeling stressed about something. I guarantee you're going into fight or flight mode. You're now breathing in your chest.
Right.
And when you can remember, oh yeah, I have this gift with me. I can control this, my own body with my breath. Then you tune into that and you start breathing deeper, slower, and you can feel your nervous system calm and sort of melt into relaxation. And I was able to really enjoy the experience and, start to do some of the work that I was meant to do while I was there.
I am your host, a husband, father, witty conversationalist, and co-founder of the Movement Real Estate Group. Join me for engaging discussions with friends where we navigate through business, goals, self-development, relationships, and our community, and whatever else captures our interest. Come join me on this journey as we rediscover the art of conversation. All right, episode 19, The Movement Experience. I'm your host, Merrick, and I am here today with my friend, Matt McIntyre, who I have known for a very long time. A very long time. I think like grade 8, I was in grade 8. I think you're friends with Marco, my older brother.
Yeah.
Obviously through high school and stuff like that. You didn't go to Pembroke Elementary, did you?
No.
I
just lived there playing basketball.
Yeah, that's right. No nets, though. The ball went anywhere. All right, so I brought you in today. I could have talked about your business, could have talked about your family, could have talked about a whole bunch of things, but I want to talk to you about breath work. So you do breath work, and I didn't even know what breath work was. I did a session with you. It was awesome, and I wanted to share that experience with people so they kind of get a little synopsis of what it is. So first of all, who are you? And what is breath work?
Who am I?
Who are you? Start off with the easy ones.
I'm a father of 3 children. I've been married for 14 years. And I discovered breath work when I hit a personal rock bottom. The stress of life and traumas, everything was overwhelming me. I was 275 pounds. I was completely addicted to marijuana. And I didn't have a problem with drinking, but it was kind of like the gateway into all of those other things.
Sure.
And I found healing through psychedelics, and breath work was a part of the psychedelic ceremonies that I did.
Psychedelics as in mushrooms?
And ayahuasca, yeah.
And ayahuasca, okay. So you found, say that again, you found your healing through that?
I discovered my healing through there, yes. It was kind of like a door that opened me up to like a world that I didn't really know anything about. And prior to the ceremonies, we would do breath work as a way of sort of releasing those surface level kind of energies to really open you up for the ceremony. Right.
So a couple things I want to ask right away. So can we talk about the stresses of life that got you to where you felt you needed to release? Can we talk about the buildup?
Yeah.
We can talk in general strokes. We don't have to get into the nuances. But I want the person that's driving in their car, the guy that's going to work that is feeling the way you felt, or the lady that's stressed with her kids and her job and she's struggling and she's stretching herself thin, they're there. They're feeling this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, for me, it was my kids. Like, I would come home and I would dissociate from them. I would be stressed in my reactions. It was starting to cause conflict with my wife. We weren't seeing each other. We weren't understanding each other. And it was just like getting to this boiling point where like every day we were fighting about something.
Right.
There was like not a day of peace, right? And then I was using eating as a coping mechanism along with the marijuana. And I remember like while I was doing it, I was always sort of shaming and guilting myself, like, I need to let this go. Like, I know this isn't healthy, but I just kept repeating those patterns.
Right. What were you trying to let go? The actions?
Trying to let go of the anger and the frustration and the resentment, you know, the stuff that your mind builds up in a relationship that isn't even really there. It's not something that we should be paying attention to in a relationship, right? Like if you're always looking for ways to be resentful or...
Yeah, you'll find them.
Yeah, then that's what you find in the relationship, right? And it's not helping anybody. It's not helping the relationship flourish. It's not helping my relationship with my kids. In specifics, like basically, you know, little kids, they fight and they get into interactions with each other. And for me, what would happen is when my kids would hurt each other, I would be the parent. I would try to come in and console the one child that was hurt, and I would end up like pushing the other kid out of the way, my own kid, and then they're crying. I'm trying to console the child that was hurt,
Right.
and then in come my wife. Now I'm the bad guy,
Right.
on all fronts,
Right.
right? Just feeling it all, and it was just really like, you know, something's got to change. There's got to be another way of dealing with stress out there other than drinking or smoking weed.
Right, which is everyone's go-to method for dealing with stress is like have a drink after work. It was a tough day. I need to crack the top and relax.
And we justify those addictions.
Right. So let's talk about that that coping mechanism, why it's not the answer long term. What happens, you know, what can happen with people when they do that? I mean, you mentioned you reached your rock bottom, which was, you know, addiction to weed and stuff like that, or marijuana, whatever. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I was super heavy. Like, you know, you get on the scale and you see a weight you've never seen before.
I've been there, dude.
Right?
Yeah,
and you're like, holy shit, like,
Yeah.
what's going on with me? Like,
I was 10 pounds shy of 300.
oh,
And I was like, oof.
so you know the feeling.
Oof. I know
It's
the
like-
feeling. So does my bed. It knows the feeling.
And then the body pain too, right? The body pain was a big part of that.
Right.
I used to be my justification. I'm like, well, I'm in so much pain.
Right.
This is why I need it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, you're also carrying an extra 50 pounds around or 60 pounds around with you.
And the lifestyle was very inflammatory. So,
Right.
you know, you start to justify it. And, yeah, I mean, basically, breath work is like the second leading cause of death in Canada is heart attacks.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like people are having heart attacks. So we know drinking leads to heart attacks, but also over breathing leads to heart attacks.
Interesting. What is that?
Over breathing is breathing too many breaths in a minute because you're breathing so shallow. Because you're in a constant state of fight or flight,
Right.
survival mode,
Cortisol's pumping.
right?
Right.
So
Okay.
you're not getting that like really slow, controlled breath,
Right.
you know? You're breathing more like, you know, we don't have to think about breathing.
Yeah.
It just happens,
Oh, thank God.
right?
Yeah.
But that's also the problem, right?
Right.
It's because we're not consciously aware of how we're breathing, yet it's so important for all the functions in our body. Like every organ you have needs oxygen to work properly,
Right.
right? Your blood needs oxygen, right? Everything needs it. So it becomes this priority when you start learning breath work that like, I need to focus on this more often.
Right. Interesting. So you talked about you were doing psychedelics as part of your healing journey, and then part of that process is breath work.
That's right.
So you said it was the initial part, or you did that before doing any like ayahuasca or?
Well, I did ayahuasca 3 times first.
Okay.
It was like, you know, I've always been the type of person that's like, okay, what's, you know, drastic measures, right?
Sure. Yeah. Of
So
course,
I'm
me
like,
too. Yeah.
you know, let's go for the strongest psychedelic on the planet
Yeah.
first.
What'll kill me? Ease off just a tiny bit.
And so I went for 3 ceremonies.
Can we just, before you go into that, just in case someone's listening, they don't know what is ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca is basically 2 plants that are brewed together to make a tea.
Okay.
Right? And you drink the tea, and the concoction activates in your stomach, creating a psychedelic experience.
Okay. Hallucinogenic experience.
That's right.
Okay.
It has a spirit.
Which does?
Ayahuasca. It's a plant medicine.
Okay. And so the purpose of doing this isn't for a fun trip, I would assume. The purpose of doing this is a healing journey. So
Well, it eliminates toxins right out of your blood,
okay.
right? And the energies of traumas
Mm-hmm.
and certain things that you've been through, you actually can release those energies in the ceremony.
Okay, so when you started doing ayahuasca, when you went through the first experiences, you were coming from a place of you saw yourself with past trauma that you wanted to release? Is that how it started?
It started, well, I was in and out of therapy. Like I did marriage counseling,
Mm-hmm.
I did one-on-one therapy, and basically I just kept getting to the same point where it's like, you know, you're paying all this money, you're getting these little trinkets of like work that you could possibly do.
Sure.
But then you go back to your life and, you know, everything just boils up and you're still reacting the same. And,
Right.
you know, nothing was changing,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
So you obviously did counseling stuff like that, but then you wanted to get into ayahuasca for that healing experience.
Well, I had talked to a lot of people who had these transformative experiences and how much it changed their life. And I was like, okay, it seemed to sort of come into my, you know, into my bubble of people. All of a sudden, this person I was talking to, they had done it.
Oh, really?
And then this person now all of a sudden they had done it.
Right.
So it was about a year I was asking people questions constantly. And finally, I had another blowout with my wife, and, you know, she was threatening divorce, and things weren't looking good. And I'm like, I gotta fucking change.
Right.
Something has to happen here. So I'm like, I'm booking a trip, and I'm going.
Where'd you go?
Seashell on the island here.
Okay, nice.
There
So-
is a local person.
You didn't fly to Peru like some
No.
people do.
Yeah,
You
well,
did it
you
local?
can, but
I know they do.
yeah, I couldn't get that much time off of the business. So I tried it, and, you know, it was a great experience. It changed my life, but it actually traumatized me. The experience traumatized me because I didn't know what I was in for.
Right.
I had no reference to compare it to. I never did psychedelics before that. Like I
Right.
tried mushrooms once or twice as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, you see the curtains moving, and that was about it. So I had no reference
Yeah, been there.
of what the experience was going to be.
Right.
So it actually traumatized me. And I met this group who was serving psilocybin as a medicine,
Okay.
and they did breath work. And so I talked to one of the facilitators, and I told him my story, and he said, you need to let me take you through a breathwork ceremony. And this is how we will get you back to a state of regulated nervous system, a state of calm where you don't feel so anxious about going back to the medicine. And I did 2 sessions with him, and I went right back. And when I had left there, I'm like, I'm never doing this again.
Right.
Yeah, I was in the mindset like, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm never doing it again.
What was it? How did it traumatize you? What was terrifying about the process?
Well, I think for starters, not understanding the process, not understanding what you're going to experience there, how the shaman is going to work on you.
The shaman is the facilitator.
That's right. And sort of like where I went to in my mind was more traumatizing than that.
Like, are we talking about your past experiences in life that you're bringing up to the surface, or?
No, it was things that maybe would never happen, like, you know, the loss of a child.
Sure.
And actually experiencing that feeling
Right.
of what it would feel like, and not knowing what was reality
Right.
and what was a thought in my head. And I couldn't separate the two.
Wow.
And no matter how hard I wanted to turn it off, it just kept coming at me.
Right.
Yeah, and it was tough.
So you met, I'm not sure who'd you meet for the breathwork? Is a different person?
It's a friend of mine. His name is Dr. Nick.
Okay. So you met Dr. Nick, you did a few sessions with breathwork, and then you went back and did another
3 ceremonies.
3 ceremonies. Wow.
Yeah.
So how did that process, the second time around, how did that feel different than the first time?
It changed everything. It changed everything because I had a tool now for when I started feeling anxious.
Right.
Right. So I was able to connect to my breath. I was able to remember, okay, I'm starting to feel something here. I'm starting to feel a little out of control. I'm going to connect to my breath, because that's what breath work's all about. It's teaching you that you have a power with you everywhere you go. And that's your breath. Right. Your emotions start running high. You start feeling stressed about something. I guarantee you're going into fight or flight mode. You're now breathing in your chest.
Right.
And when you can remember, oh yeah, I have this gift with me. I can control this, my own body with my breath. Then you tune into that and you start breathing deeper, slower, and you can feel your nervous system calm and sort of melt into relaxation. And I was able to really enjoy the experience and, start to do some of the work that I was meant to do while I was there.
Is that, what do you mean by do the work that you were meant to do? Is that just things that you had to work through personally?
Yeah.
And everyone, I would imagine, then has their own work to do.
Exactly. Like for me, it was what was personal about it was like, okay, so my traumas made it so I dissociate from feelings.
Okay.
Right? So I don't allow myself to feel sad. I don't allow myself to feel scared. I only allow myself to feel happy or angry. There's no other spectrum of feelings. Right?
Preaching to the choir right now. It's like, whoa. Keep going, buddy. This is good.
This is the male culture that we live in. This is what was praised when we were kids.
Yeah.
This is what was mentored to us by our parents.
Right.
So that specific round of ceremonies was all about sitting in my feelings, and basically that's exactly what it did. Like a wheel, I felt scared and I just had to sit in it. I felt guilty and I had to sit in it. I felt shame. I felt joy. I felt gratitude. I felt fear. I felt hopelessness. I felt surrender. And it just kept going for hours in this wheel.
Wow.
And it was like, this was my experience, right? People are waking up, the ceremony's over, and I'm still in it. I'm still feeling these wheels of feelings, and I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, medicine. Like, okay, this is what it was all about.
That's awesome, man. So you did that 3 times.
Total, I've done ayahuasca 11 times, yeah.
Sorry, three times after you had the breathwork sessions.
That's right.
Okay. What did you, obviously ayahuasca is a tool for people that are, like, people use it as a tool when they have trauma, right? I believe probably, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe pretty much everyone has trauma. They don't really realize it.
Exactly.
The people are carrying things, and I want to get into this with breathwork about where they can carry it and stuff like that. But people are carrying things in their body, whether it be, a parent spoke to them harshly as a child and they just had to be quiet or couldn't cry or whatever it was. And then that's in their body somewhere. They're carrying that with them. And then it comes out in different ways. And people don't really realize why they're having a triggered response to something. Or it just comes out. And people just think, I just got upset. It's like, no, that's a trauma response that you're dealing with, that you're triggered and now you're responding. So I don't think people have this idea that ayahuasca is for, whatever, but it's like anyone can benefit from psilocybin, ayahuasca, breathwork, right? So I think breathwork should be something that everyone should do. Should at least do it. Well, for sure, be aware of it, but like everyone needs to be doing it at least once. Like you got to do it. You got to experience it. But let's talk about. Can we talk about trauma? How people use ayahuasca to work through trauma and breathwork as well and stuff like that. Like where it being stored in the body and stuff like that. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the courses I took is the neuro alignment model by a guy named Todd Ritchie. And it basically teaches this psychology model of how we are addicted to our own pain and suffering.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so when you're a young child and you're traumatized, it doesn't necessarily have to be a big T trauma, like, physically spanked or abused. It could be as simple as not being loved the way you need it to be.
Mm-hmm.
not getting the attention that you deserved or that you wanted,
Right.
right? Those are all traumas. So in the moment when you're traumatized, you go into survival mode,
Right.
right? Fight or flight response, right? And what happens is actually there's a chemical process in your brain that releases dopamine and a chemical called beta endorphin. And beta endorphin is actually your body's own internal opioid,
Okay.
right? It's your body's painkiller and it's your body's pleasure chemical. It's the same. So what happens is, I'll give you an example. So let's say you're a child and you're running through the house just being a kid, and you knock something over and all of a sudden it breaks. Well, what happens in that moment is you're like, oh, I'm going to catch shit from my parents,
Right.
right? You're already feeling all these wheels of emotions. But in comes the parent. What are you doing? I told you no running in the house. Look, you little whatever. Now you broke this. You're grounded, or whatever it is,
Or
right?
whack, 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 or whatever.
Or whack, 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 yeah. And in the moment, you now attach to all those emotions. But the problem is those emotions, they are not you, right? They are not your truth of who and what you are, right? So we call those like the false identity,
Right.
right? And those feelings, they get trapped in your body from a very young age, and you become addicted to repeating the feelings over and over again. So now every scenario, because you were in survival mode, I'm trying to explain this right. So because you're in survival mode, basically your mind thinks you need to feel that way for survival,
Right.
right? The body's number one goal is homeostasis,
Right.
right? At all times.
Yeah.
It's always fighting to be in a state of homeostasis. So when you attach to these feelings of shame, guilt, abandonment, fear,
Mm-hmm.
you enter what we call an illusory state of homeostasis, where the body's like, okay, this is how I can cope with what I went through,
Right.
right? And you become addicted to those emotions because your mind thinks, I need to feel this way for survival, because attaching to those emotions is what pulled you out of survival.
Right.
And the bigger the trauma, the bigger the attachment to those emotions, right? Now, if you were in a perfect, not perfect, but if you were in a household with compassionate parents and you knocked that vase over and they came in and say, oh no, it was an accident. I know you didn't mean to do that. Come here, give me a hug. I'm sorry. Let's clean this up together. It's not a trauma,
Right.
right? Why? Why isn't it a trauma?
The response from the parents didn't scar you or whatever.
That's right. Because there was compassion. There was authentic attachments there. The figure that's responsible to keep them safe
Right.
made them feel safe. And the child innately feels bad that they broke something.
Sure.
It's not like they just don't care about the stuff in their house, right? So at a very young age, these traumas get stuck in our body, and a lot of them lead to these programs and these patterns of responding to things like triggers that feel like, it's like a knee-jerk reaction, like you just respond that way,
Yep.
right? And you don't really understand why,
You don't even think about it.
right? And when you do start to uncover and you're in your ego, you start to attach to the stories. Wow, let's use an example. You're driving down the road and, road rage is a big thing, and somebody cuts you off, right? Well, right there, what do? You go, you start fingering the guy, or you
that
go,
guy's an X. This guy's a blah, blah, blah.
he did that on purpose.
Right.
So you can see in the moment, you're attaching to the story that you're saying, but you're also feeding your own emotional addiction. It could be to anger.
Right.
It could be to feeling fear.
Right.
Whatever those hallmarks were that you felt in your household as a child, those are what you're going to create in your everyday life.
Right. Yeah, I always find it interesting. Like Confucius says, no matter where you go, there you are. And people will often try to change their location, thinking that they're going to get a different life. But you're your life. you're bringing that with you. You're bringing those traumas with you. And unless you're working on those traumas, it doesn't matter how many times you move. It doesn't matter how many times you change your friend group. You're going to bring it with you. You're going to see that people are deceptive because you're looking for deceptive behaviors because you're addicted to that. So it's interesting to have to kind of like, oh, wait a minute, I got to unwind me first. You know what I mean? So
because there's one common denominator in every interaction.
That's right.
And it's yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you go into a little bit more about the getting addicted to a certain type of like a certain type of emotion? If you can elaborate on that a little bit more, because I have a feeling that there's somebody driving like, why would I be addicted to pain? That doesn't make sense. Or why would I be addicted to getting shut out or whatever it is? So like,
well, because it's a subconscious program.
Right.
You're not consciously choosing it.
Right.
Your subconscious is choosing it.
Right.
Right. So you could think of something like, you know, it's all because of chemicals. Like our body is this massive pharmacy that can release all these different things and heal all these different things when we have proper access to it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's all about this chemical that I learned, beta endorphin, right? Beta endorphin and dopamine, they work hand in hand, right? So let's say you were in the forest and, you know, you were to break your arm.
Yep.
Right? So the first thing your body's going to do is, obviously everyone knows, adrenaline. Mm-hmm. Then it's going to release dopamine so that you can get the hell out of there and get to a doctor. Dopamine's the drive chemical. Right? But it's also going to release your body's natural painkiller, which is beta endorphin. Mm-hmm. Right? So the way it works is they call this rule, there's like a 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, like 100 times rule, right? And basically, so I mentioned that beta endorphin it's also the body's pleasure chemical. Right. So when you're having healthy connection, healthy sex, good food, your body's releasing beta endorphin. But now when you're in pain, physical or emotional pain, your body releases 2 to 5 to 10 up to 100 times the beta endorphin. Wow. Now remember, beta endorphin is your own internal opioid. Right. It's a legitimate opioid. And your mind doesn't know good or bad. Like the heart can feel good or bad, but your mind doesn't, and it's produced through your brain. Right. So now when you choose this angry emotion, this shameful thing, you're getting your hit of beta endorphin.
And it's 2, 10, 100 times stronger than you would on the positive side of the spectrum.
And this is how it starts. So when you're young, you develop these neural pathways that are creating this beta endorphin. Because now, just think about it, like you needed to feel that way to get you out of survival mode. So you attach to the emotion, and now your brain is producing this, but guess what? It thinks it needs it for survival. Right. So what is it going to do?
Create more.
It's going to create more.
Yeah.
But what happens in your life when you can't create enough drama or stress? It still needs that beta endorphin, so it starts attacking your body, creating pain, creating headaches, chronic stomach problems, whatever it is, because it needs that beta endorphin. So it keeps creating pain in your body. And the only way that they say to really break these patterns is by recognizing the addiction. It's like step 1. Yeah. It's like, you know what they say in NA, you don't say like, I'm an addict. You just go, oh, I recognize right now I'm feeling shameful. Right. I recognize right now I'm wanting to blame someone for something. Where is that coming from? Let's unpack that and try to choose a different response. Right? Yeah. The opposite response to what you normally would do. Right. So Todd, he calls it the rule of opposites, right? So you're driving down the road, the guy cuts you off. You want to finger him, you want to honk your horn. what's the opposite?
Wave and smile.
Wave and smile.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And every time you take that opposite path, you are weakening the strength that emotional addiction has.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I talk about building new neural pathways in your brain. So like when you have a knee-jerk reaction, you're running on an old road that you've built years ago. But if you want a new response, you have to build a new neural pathway. So you have to identify that you're on the wrong road, and then you have to build a new road. But how do you build a road? Well, it takes time. Like you're starting off and you're on this little trail, and then it's a dirt road, and then it's like a 2-lane road, and then it eventually becomes a highway. Yeah. Well, you're on highways of bad behavior, and you have to go to a dirt road and build that highway up until it's strong enough that it's now the default. Right, because the neural pathways are now operating in a new section of the brain, and that old trauma-inducing section is no longer firing as soon as you have a knee-jerk response. Right, it takes time, obviously, but that's kind of the way I try to attribute it in my head. It's like this is an old behavior. I'm not going down. I'm not using the highway. I'm going down this, and it's conscious initially, but then eventually it becomes an unconscious decision that you're doing. Right, because you actually change the way you operate.
Exactly. So insert breath work.
Right. So let's get back into breath work. Yeah.
Insert breath work. Something comes up, you're triggered. Mm-hmm. Right? I can, without a shadow of a doubt, almost guarantee that if you were to stop what you were doing and just breathe and focus on your breath for 60 seconds, it would completely change the outcome of your reaction. Right? Completely change the outcome of your reaction.
Interesting.
Maybe you would think twice about reacting, and what would happen if I finger that guy? Oh, maybe he's going to try to pull over, and I'm going to get in a fight, and I don't want to get in a fight, and
right,
whatever. Or maybe he didn't mean to do that, or maybe he did. Who cares? I'm not going to let him get me.
Yeah,
I'm not going to let him take my power away.
Yeah, exactly,
right?
100%.
And that's where breath work becomes this tool in life, and like in every single state where you're stressed or you're dealing with something, and you can connect to your breath. It changes the outcome of what it's supposed like what the old program would make you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just completely changes it. And I know for me, like, I used to always have these knee-jerk reactions to things. And now I can hear my old response come up, and I can choose a different response.
Right.
Because I've gotten to the point where I know it's a choice.
Yeah.
And I understand. And I can even, in that moment, I can even weigh out all the different options. Like, well, if I say this is going to go, and then this is going to go down this path. And I'm not perfect at it, but it's come a really long way.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to be perfect at everything, but, at least you're making the steps in the right direction. I mean, you knew what was working for you before it wasn't working for you.
Exactly.
So what you were doing before wasn't working for you. So
they say when you're enlightened, you think of yogic people or these masters of whatever, and they've reached enlightenment. It's not that they don't feel angry or they don't feel sad. They just allow the emotion to come up.
Right.
They don't attach to it.
Right.
And it's like a cloud in the sky. It just comes up, they feel it, and it just floats right on by. And that's essentially the goal with breath work. I've only been doing it for 3.5 years, and the goal is to be able to, withstand almost any sort of barrage of emotion.
Right.
And respond accordingly.
So can we talk about what is breath work? So we've talked about it in general context, but what is breath work? How does someone get involved or get into it? What can we do?
Yeah, so there's a couple different modalities of breath work, right? There's breath work for I want to say like hyper activating the body.
Yep.
So it's more intense breathing, which is basically going to put you into a state of fight or flight, and in that state you will release emotions that you haven't allowed yourself to feel.
Right.
Then there is sort of slower breathing techniques which allow you that feeling of safety and calmness, which also bring up emotions that you may have pushed down and suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
There's apps you can get which take you through little guided meditations, but the breath work that I do it's guided, it's hands-on, it's having somebody there, where whatever comes up, somebody's got your back.
Right.
They're there supporting you through the whole process, watching your breath, coaching you, because in the beginning, we don't know how to breathe. We may think we're doing it right, but we might not be expanding our diaphragm enough. We might still be breathing in the chest, right? And then you're not really wasting your time, but you're not getting the most out of the sessions that you could be getting, right?
I tried breathwork a little bit. It didn't really do anything for me.
Exactly.
Did you do it with a guided guy, or did you by yourself? I did an app by myself in my basement. It's like,
exactly. And
the
then
blind
what
leading the
starts to
blind.
happen is, your monkey mind activates, and you're thinking of your to-do list while you're breathing, and there's all these things that come up that you're not prepared to handle. But a breathwork facilitator is there to sort of subvert those ways of thinking and keep you on track.
Right. So, average Joe, if they can't get into a facilitator, do something. But like, we should all be doing breath work. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's many simple techniques like box breathing, right? And actually, breath work is anybody can get into it. It's the most easy. It's like so easy to access group breath work. And most of these places you can find, they do a sliding scale for the group breath work where you donate from $40 to $70, and you go for group breath work and you breathe with 10 to 15 to 20 different people, and they have facilitators there, and you set an intention and you learn what it's like to be open and talk to other people, be vulnerable, be seen, right? And it's the private sessions that usually run a lot more because some people feel like they can really let go of a lot more when they don't have all those
Judging
other
eyes.
stimulants and the judgment, right? And that's mostly for myself included. Like, it took me a while to really feel comfortable with the group that I was breathing with, to really get into that feeling where I was able to express my tears, and actually access those emotions without listening to those thoughts of like, men don't cry. What this person's going to think? And like,
man up.
Will it really, what would it? It's still one of those things where it's like, what would it really look like if you were just to break down in front of somebody? What would that make you? It's like this subconscious fear that you can't even think about overcoming. Right. It took me a long time to overcome that, and that's something I know I face when I work with men or work with women, is sometimes they have a hard time. So it's all about developing trust, right? The more you trust the facilitator you're with, the further you'll go in the session.
Yeah, it's interesting how we're so societally, men and women too, to a certain extent, taught to subdue, or not subdue, but like shove down your emotions and not feel them and not express them. Like, especially men, like you said, you can be angry or happy. Those are the two, or hungry, I guess. Those are the emotions you're allowed, But it's like, yeah, because you talk about like, being able to cry in front of someone, and it's like, oof, I wouldn't want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, that's my default is still at that level. You know what I mean? Which is not where it should be, right? Because it's like, why would you have a fear of being emotionally free, like being able to express your emotions? If you don't, if you care what other people think, then you're starting at a disadvantage. You shouldn't be caring what other people think, because you should be confident and comfortable in yourself. You know what I mean?
It's a subconscious program. So basically, as a child, your emotions weren't valued to your parents.
Yeah.
Right? They couldn't hold space for their emotions.
That's right.
So when you had emotions, they would shut it down.
I can't deal with my own. You can't deal with yours.
So you get the message, my feelings aren't important.
Right.
So I'm just going to develop this dissociation process, or ADHD, which a lot of people have, to disconnect myself from feeling.
Right.
Because every other time I've done it, I've been shut down.
Right.
You know, you're only going to open yourself up so much as a kid before you just start shutting down.
Right.
And now you're in adulthood, and, you know, you think about that program, it might have saved your life as a kid, right? It might have been the single thing that helped you get through your childhood.
Right.
But now it's the single biggest thing that you need to unravel and work through.
It's holding you back now.
That's right. And like, I call that like the cosmic joke. Like, there's a few of them out there, cosmic jokes, but it's like, you know, the defense mechanism that saved me as a childhood. Now I have to try to dismantle it and work backwards and get back to that child that was allowed to feel and express and feel safe to do so.
Right.
It's a tough process.
Man, I feel like you're preaching to the choir here. This is good stuff. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, like, it's good. It's hitting home. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, yeah. So breathwork is part of it. Obviously, if you can work with a facilitator, it's going to be a better experience because you're going to get more out of your efforts, right? Higher return for your investment, so to speak.
Well, that breathwork facilitator is committed to you.
Right.
It's also, there's this thing called an empathic witness. So how we heal is by having an empathic witness to our struggles. We need to be seen. We need to be validated. And you can't get that by yourself with breath work. You just, like, doing it alone, you just can't.
Right.
Like, you can still get benefits. You can train your breath. You can do all these things. But when it comes to, like, healing from the traumas, you absolutely need an empathic witness.
So let's talk about healing from the traumas, because we touched on it earlier a little bit. We talked about how traumas can get stored in the body, and you can literally release these traumas through breath work, and you can literally feel it.
Well, what you release is the energy of that trauma, right? There's a book that everyone always quotes, and it's like, the body keeps the score, right?
Okay.
Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, so it's a book about, like, that scientifically explains how our body keeps the score of every single trauma we've ever been through, whether it's blunt force trauma, falling off your bike.
Right.
If you don't go through the steps to heal, even in the emotional trauma, your body remembers and it holds on to that trauma. And scientifically, you've attached to that trauma. And there's always an emotion that comes into it, right? Because when we're traumatized, we must attach, right? Psychology says you have to attach because you're going to go back to homeostasis. You know, whether you attach to something that doesn't serve you, right?
Yep.
You must attach.
Right.
You know, you think of somebody who's in jail or, you know, deep camp war, or I don't know what I'm saying, but, you know, in jail, and they're going through this hard time and they're traumatized. What do they attach to? You know, to get through that, they attach to the thoughts of their family. They attach to the memory, like things that'll get them through it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So in any scenario, human beings, we must attach.
Yeah, there's a book, A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and it is a book about a psychologist who goes through the concentration camps in the Second World War. He's a Jewish psychologist. And he talks about the week from Christmas to New Year's was the highest death rate in the entire year. More people would die in that week because they had in their head, we'll be out by Christmas, we'll be out by Christmas, we'll be out by Christmas. And that hope, they attach themselves to the hope of getting out by Christmas. And then from the week, the day of Christmas to the New Year, that was the highest death rate in the camp for the year. The more people would die then because they lost hope.
Exactly.
They attached themselves to getting out by Christmas. And then they weren't out, and that was it. They just literally, their bodies just gave out. Their mind allowed them to just breathe their last breath. I mean, that's wild.
It's
that's how strong the mind is, though.
It is.
You know, people don't really realize it. And read the book, not you, but like those on Radio Land, read the book. It's a fantastic book, but it is incredibly strong. Your mind is so powerful, and people just take it for granted. You know what I mean? They numb their mind with dopamine hits on their cell phone, scrolling, watching. And I'm an NFL fan, so I watch football and stuff like that. But it's like you're numbing and missing out in your entire life because you're avoiding the work that you need to do. You know what I mean?
I think it's all about, you know, really realizing what are your core values and what you believe to be important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, until somebody goes through something hard in life, you know, losing a parent, losing a friend, they're just on this like steady road where they're like, well, everything's working out fine, what I'm doing, you know,
Right.
I'm just going to keep doing this and everything's great. But all of a sudden they go through something, and it's inevitable. Trauma is inevitable, right? People die.
Yep.
Things are going to happen in your life. There's going to be stress. It's
Yep.
inevitable. So what are the tools that you've developed in your life to help you when you get to that point, right? Breath work, conscious awareness, all of these things, they're huge, you know?
What's conscious awareness?
Conscious awareness, so, you know, I got into this stuff called epigenetics with a doctor named Bruce Lipton.
I think I've heard of epigenetics. Go into this. I'm curious.
He wrote a book called The Biology of Belief.
Okay.
And it's actually a part of the course that I took as well, because he says your beliefs lead to behaviors, and that's what shapes your reality.
Right.
Right? And Bruce Lipton, he wrote an entire book on that, epigenetics, but he says a lot of scientific facts, and 95% of the day you're operating from the subconscious mind.
Totally.
Right? That's only 5% of the day you're using your conscious awareness. You're in creative mode. You're not running the program.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, you could do something like free dance where you just start dancing and you're not even thinking about it. That's activating your conscious mind. Maybe you pick up some paint and you just frickin' start going. That's your conscious mind. You're just creating.
Right.
You know, you're staring into a fire and you just get captivated by the fire and everything just goes, and you're just like so focused on everything, how the flame looks and everything, boom. So the more you can get into that mindset, the more creation you can have in your life.
Right.
Right? You can start creating the life you want, the things that you want to pay attention to more of, that you find value. Right? You know, I heard a podcast today, I was listening to something, and they were talking about like the costs of these ceremonies and how people always get hung up on the costs.
Right.
Right? And it's like, well, their justification was like, well, how much does your phone cost you a month? You know,
Way more than it should.
how much, you know, how much are you spending on, you know, entertainment?
Yeah, all your subscriptions,
on booze. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you spend money on what you think's important.
Yeah, you prioritize it and you
But
don't even
here's-
think twice about it.
And here's the thing. Are you not important?
Mm-hmm.
You should be the single most important thing in your life,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be here very long
100%.
to enjoy life.
Yep.
Right? So that's the thing. It's like people are like, oh, you know, a ceremony's a couple $100. I don't want to really shell out the money. It's because they're committed to chasing their own pain.
Right.
They haven't hit what I call a rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't experienced it yet.
Right.
Right? And it's like, you know, maybe if this stuff was taught in schools, you know, like breath work and these different types of modalities, that people would realize sooner, like, hey, you know, there's a better way to live my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's investing in myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a podcast actually just recently. I think it was 17. This is 19. And it was on your purpose of life. And your highest purpose is you. If you don't prioritize yourself, and I'm not talking your ego self, I'm talking about real you, you can't give to your family. And you're robbing them of the best you, right? So if you're in your best self, like you are putting in the work to yourself, becoming the best you could be, you're now also the best father you could have been. your best husband. You could have been the best boss because you run a business.
Exactly.
You're becoming all of the best versions of yourself in every capacity because you focused on you first. You're like, something's not right here. I'm gonna go back to the basics and fix this, and then I'm gonna build myself up anew. If people don't do that, they don't have that rebirth, then they're never really going to live their best life because you can't build on that. You can't build on your ego. You can't build on being a mom because you're not just like, yeah, you're a mom, but what happens if something horrific happens to your kids and they're gone? Now you're not a mom anymore. So that wasn't it, right? It wasn't your business because that could be taken away from you. It wasn't your degree or whatever because that could be useless after AI comes in and takes your job away or whatever, right? So you can't build your life up on those things, but you can build your life up on you. So yeah, I think it's an interesting point because a lot of the times, man, people don't realize we got three commodities in life. You got your time, you got your money, and you've got your knowledge, and that's it, right? And time, you go knocking on doors in sales, and you people slam the door in your face because they don't want to waste their time or their money on you, right? But they'll scroll for like 6 hours on their phone, unsolicited, just boom, 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 next hit, and that's your time, dude. That's all you get. Like, I think it's crazy that people waste it so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we really need to invest in ourselves. If you want to be the change in your family, you want to lead by example, you want to break the chain and stop passing these things down to your children, you got to focus on yourself.
Yeah,
it's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
And your children, naturally, they see the change. Like my kids saw the change in me.
Right.
They remembered. They used to say, "Oh, when you were fat, you used to give us lots of candy, and now you don't give us any." Right? And I was like, "Yeah, well, because I was asleep and I was thinking like, oh, this is fine. Like, let's just spoil them and raise their blood sugar, and they're happy. This is great.
Such a great dad.
Going good, right?"
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. It's funny because it's like, as a parent, you're just given. You make these children. They're like you're at the hospital. They change the one diaper, and they're like, all right, off you go, and then that's it. Like, you just got to go figure it out, right? And like you said, you got to break the chain. It's like, my son had like a twitch, my oldest son, and he was like a nervous twitch, and it was because I was yelling at him, and it was my fault that he was now displaying something physical because of me, and it was my failure as a man not breaking the chain, which is now passing on to the next generation. And if you go up my family line, you had abusive all the way up. Like, it was just hot-headed, short-tempered, you name it, right? It was abusive. But it's like, someone has to stop it. Someone has to break the chain. And it should be you. Like, don't infer onto your children the very things that caused you pain as a kid. You know what I mean? Like, people that'll, I don't want to get picked on or something like that, but like, people will have bad eating habits. And so they'll put that bad eating habit onto their kids. And the very thing that was the most painful thing to them as a child, they're now instilling into their children. Right. It's insane. It's insane. It's without conscious thought that they do it. And it's wild. So when you actually take yourself back a step and you look at yourself in your life and what you're doing, you're like, oh my God, here I was, Mr. Angry, and I'm hurting my kids because I wasn't willing to go back and undo what caused me to be angry in the first place. Yeah, and again, like you said, I'm not perfect, and I'm not perfect, but it's like having the, do you know who Gabor Mate is?
100%, yes. I follow him quite closely over the years.
Awesome dude. So he's like, the definition of a good parent is like, if your parents gave you this much shit, and for those in Radio Land that aren't watching, I'm holding my hands far apart, and you give your kids this much and they're closer together, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean? We always talk about kids' emotions, and it's actually, when you're a big adult and you're having a tantrum, You are acting like a child.
Totally.
Legitimately a child.
Totally.
Because you never developed
Emotional
the emotional regulation skills.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you were snubbed out.
Yeah.
So now put yourself in a parent and you have a child. It's like, are you going to have a bigger reaction to their reaction?
Yeah.
Or are you going to stop?
Those are some big emotions you're feeling.
Breathe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Connect to your heart center and validate their feelings and watch the magic.
Right.
Watch how quickly they start to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
after they feel and they feel seen. Oh, he understands. He knows
Yeah,
exactly how I
am
feel.
feeling this way. You're right, Dad. I do feel
Right?
that way.
And then, boom,
Yeah.
go back to being a kid.
Yeah.
Healthy attachment.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, I know it's the techniques that they teach you or that are commonplace. Spanking breaks connection. Timeouts, your behavior is unacceptable, break connection. All these different things that we use are awful if you actually look at what they're doing. They're breaking the connection to your kid, right? Like if you hit your kid, you're supposed to be the protector and their safe spot, and you're now the abuser. So spanking, which is, everyone's got this like biblical attachment to it because it says in the Bible, spare the rod, spoil the child. But it's like you're literally breaking the connection with the kid, right? What are you disciplining them or are you teaching them? Because you should be teaching them, right? And it's like if he's having an emotional, so my youngest son is 5 and he's learning how to regulate his emotions. He's not good at it yet, but he's 5. This is a work in progress. He's 5.
Mm-hmm.
He's not 50. I see, you know what I mean? My son, by the time he's 10, will have better skills at regulating his emotions than 50-year-olds because they never learned how to do it. And how can you teach your kids emotional regulation when you cannot emotionally regulate? You don't have the skill. So you got to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can't just you can't be a 5-year-old numbing your emotions with a Jack Daniels. Like it doesn't work that way.
Well, see, like one more point on spanking and hitting your kids.
Yeah.
Like, so you take your kid and they're feeling bad about something already that they did. And now you decide to take it to the next level and actually physically hurt them.
Right.
That is going to increase exponentially their addiction to shame, guilt, fear, the victim, all of those emotions.
Right.
You are just going to drive that attachment to those even bigger. Not only raise their cortisol permanently for whenever you're around because they're not going to feel safe, right? They're always going to be worried that that's going to happen. And it's going to lead to things like ADHD and extra weight gain when you're older and cortisol problems. Like cortisol is basically the window into every single dysfunction that you could possibly have.
100%.
Right?
Yeah,
like
100%. Can you explain cortisol to those that don't know what you're talking about?
Oh, cortisol is the stress hormone your body releases.
Your fight or flight.
Yeah, when you're feeling stressed.
Right.
Right? It releases it in the body. And then it just like it activates all these other things in your body. Like high cortisol, if your cortisol goes up, I guarantee you your breath is in your chest and you're like, you think of like a lion chasing you.
Right.
Right. Cortisol is one of those chemicals, those dopamine, like that goes through the roof and you're sprinting because you're fucking scared.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Like, oh, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And the problem is, you're a child and you go through those experiences with this high cortisol and you become an adult. You're not in that scenario anymore. But all it takes is somebody to raise their voice. All it takes is somebody to be a little bit aggressive.
Right.
Boom. Cortisol through the roof. Fight or flight response.
Right.
Now you put yourself in a busy city. You got people yelling at people, people doing things. You're just in this constant state of fight or flight everywhere you go.
Right.
Cortisol through the roof, leading to all these other dysfunctions.
Which people don't really realize, but if your cortisol is up, you're going to get heart attacks, strokes. Like, I mean, it is literally
Everything.
so bad for you. So bad for you.
And guess how you lower cortisol?
Give me an example. How could you do that, Matt?
Breathwork.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So let's get back into breathwork because I mean we kind of segued a little bit into parenting, which is fine, by the way. We're allowed to segue on this podcast, so that's good. But so getting back into breathwork. Okay, so how can one get involved in breathwork? Number one, so like people are going to be Googling this. Who are we looking for? Who should we be listening to? And I know that if you guys are in the Fraser Valley, I'll figure out a way to put your credentials up, or your people can reach out to you if they have if they want to do what are they called, sessions or
breathwork sessions.
Okay, yeah, because I mean I know there'll be people that want to do it, and I think, you know, I'm not getting paid for this, but I think everyone in the planet should do this. So there's no referral fee in it for me. I want everyone to experience this. I think it's tremendous. I want to keep doing it. It hasn't worked out with scheduling, but I need to get something more.
It's all about what you value.
100%, dude.
Right.
You're calling me out, but you're 100% right. Priorities are your priorities. My brother used to say to me when I didn't want to go to the gym, Marco, he'd be like, if I held a gun to your head and I said, you're going to go to the gym today or I'm going to blow your brains out, you'd go to the gym. And I'm like, yeah, that's a valid point. I guess you're making a valid point, right? Because that's a priority now. But it's definitely something that people should do. So how do we get plugged into the world? And can we talk about it a bit more as well? Because we kind of are alluding to it, but like the world of healing, connectivity. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
if you want to get into
there's so many breathwork circles that are kind of just popping up, right? You could check out yoga studios. I mean, Instagram. There's multiple different virtual online breathwork sessions you can join for free.
Cool.
Even, right? And you go through a guided session. You're in Zoom. It's not as I don't believe it's as impactful as a one-on-one, but it's still impactful.
Yeah.
You know, you're listening, you're being guided, you're doing the breath. Things are going to come up, right? Mm-hmm. What I like about what I do is it's just when I was going through all of my stuff and it was like, where's my support? Where's my integration?
Right.
Right? Because everything that comes up in a breathwork ceremony or a medicine ceremony, it needs to be integrated into your life. Otherwise, you're just going to go right back to using those same old programs,
100%.
same old patterns over and over again.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So support is huge. So you want to find, a group that has like these chats where everybody that breathes there, they join a WhatsApp group and you stay connected and, or just start small and download one of those apps that are like Breathing Space or Headspace or something like that, where you just, you make a small commitment to yourself every day that you're going to do 10 minutes of breathing, right? But when you're ready and you really want to see change or feel something different, then you look for a breath coach.
Okay. And what's that look like? How many times does somebody need to go? Are they eventually going to grow out of the coach, or
it's a way of life? I don't, everybody in society is always looking for this like quick
silver
fix,
bullet,
right?
Yeah.
It's
I want the one thing that'll,
if I do this,
I don't want to read it. Just give me
which is the
headlines
to pills and pharmaceuticals. But it's like, I want this one thing that's going to just solve all my problems. Well, guess what? That one thing is you.
100%.
And the more you invest in yourself over and over and over again,
that's right,
the better your life is going to be, the better your relationship is going to be with everybody you're involved with.
Compounding interest too, because everything gets better. It's monumental, right? Like everything gets better. So yeah, no, it's huge, dude.
My business, my rebar business, when I let go of marijuana, alcohol, and I started breath work, my business like quadrupled. All of a sudden, I was having people like request me on the jobs. Mm-hmm. They wanted me there. Why? Because they said I was more level-headed, easy to deal with,
right, more
personable,
right.
All these things.
You were present.
That's right. All these things that the breath work activated in me.
Right. That's you putting you first and being the best you that you can bring to the table. You know what I mean? That's what I was talking about in the podcast previously. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. But it's literally, you're bringing. So there's been 100 billion people, let's say, that have come and gone on the planet. You're the only you that's ever existed in the genome sequence and all that blah 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 and the DNA, and you're the only expression of you. Now everyone else is that as well. So you're unique, but you're like everybody else, right? But it's like your job, your duty. Better than job, but your duty is to be the best expression of yourself that you can be, right? And you talked about creativity a bit. I wanted to get back into creativity, right? Because I think as a child, like our emotions get shut down, our creativity gets shut down.
Exactly.
So I wanted to talk a little bit more about creativity, because I believe that, children are naturally creative. They have huge imaginations. They are like, oh, I'm in this fairyland, Dad. Did you want to come play with me? It's like, okay, where are we? What are we doing? Oh, we're doing this and we're doing that. And you can go right into these little worlds that they're living in because they're just being creative, or they're drawing, or they're doing whatever, right? So, is there a connection emotionally, creativity? Is there anything there connected at all?
Oh, 100%. I look at, let's say you're a kid and you made this drawing and it just was out of your mind, right? Mm-hmm. And you're so proud of this drawing. You'll go and you show it to one of your brother's friends and he's like, that's stupid.
Right.
That looks like crap. Why'd you draw that? Right? That's the worst drawing I ever seen. Boom. Watch that creativity in that child start to dwindle, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what we do with our kids, and it's a little bit of psychology, but we don't say good job.
Right.
We don't say good job. We say, wow, you worked really hard on that.
Right.
How do you feel?
I love that.
Was like, how much, effort did you put into this? Mm-hmm. Did you give it 100%?
Is this your best work?
What do you think?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You're getting them to validate their own experience.
100%.
I have so many employees. I know I don't say good job to them, but sometimes I do, and they're just like, they smile ear to ear. It's like, he said good job. It's like, really? Yeah. I could just pull it out of my pocket and just make it up. But to me, it's like, I have this aversion to saying it.
That's so funny. I do it with my kids too, where I'll notice details and I'll speak to the details that they put in. Oh, I noticed that the cat is on the rainbow here. I noticed that you did that. That's really good, or whatever. Like where you're specific about something, or you ask them, is this your best work? Like, is this the best you can do? Yeah, this is my best. It's like, oh, I can tell. Like you really put a lot of effort into this. I can see that you took the time to keep it in the lines or whatever it is. But it's an exact. You're speaking to the work instead of like, oh, great job. This is so good. Like, it's just like, what a
it's
blanket.
It's called internal validation,
right,
instead of looking for that external validation.
And there's something to be said for mindset as well that you're instilling in your children when you do that. You're giving them a really good mindset where I find a lot of kids, when they're praised for an ability, oh yeah, you're so talented. Oof, do not tell your kids they're talented. Because talent will make them want to stop trying later, because they'll be afraid of failing later, right? So they're talented now, but maybe in a bigger league, they won't be able to be themselves. So when you praise their hard work, well, little Timmy, you did all those shots in the driveway, and that's why you did well in the big game. You associate the success and you tie that to the effort that they put in. Then they'll have a great mindset. Whereas the more that I work on myself, the more that I develop, the more I'll succeed. Versus you're naturally talented. You know what I mean? Because that'll just stifle them and they'll get the fear of failure. When you attribute a roadmap to success of effort, if you keep putting that effort in, little Timmy, you're going to become the best shot that you could possibly be. Then they go, okay, I need to put more work in and I'm going to get the shots. You know what I mean?
Praise is like the number one most important thing to do with your children, because what I learned from a medicine man when I lost my dad was that actually when you praise your children for the things that they're good for, you actually teach them how to grieve.
Explain that.
Because when you lose somebody, you miss the things that you liked about them.
Right.
And that's what activates the sadness, right? So when you're praising your children for the things that's worth praising, you're teaching them how to grieve. Because when somebody dies and it's going to happen, they can say, oh, I missed this about them. That was so special that they were this person, that they did this, right? Because you're praising them, they're praising you, they're praising grandpa, they're praising their sister.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like contagious praising.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think of his name right now, but I send this, it's like a lecture that I send to everybody that loses somebody, because it really helped me. It helped me feel safe enough to express my emotions in front of my children during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just really powerful. Praise is the same as understanding grief. You know, whether I explain it fully or not, it's what I realized and fully believe.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never made that connection before, but I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ability to give and receive praise you can now understand grief.
Exactly.
You can understand, and you can go, oh, I'm missing this about him, or whatever.
Yeah, this culture, they believe they're Mayan, and they believe that grief is a skill, is a talent, accessing it. Yeah, they have a way of, they have like professional weepers that will come to people who get stuck in their grief, people who are lost in liquor. They don't know how to grieve properly.
Right.
Right? So they look at our culture, people who are drinking all the time, alcoholics, they're lost in their grief.
Yeah, addicts,
right?
stuff like that. Yeah.
And so they have these professional weepers that come, and they're soft, tender people, and they're just designed to like bring those emotions out of you.
Wow.
And yeah, it's an amazing.
There's so much that we don't understand, man.
Yeah.
There's so much that we don't understand. Like even talking about that, you're like, weepers, what are you talking? And then you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like what do you do for a living? Oh, just my card. I'm a professional weeper.
Yeah.
Like, wow. That's wild, man. But I mean, yeah, like you're right though. Like it's like if somebody's cycling the same thing, it's because they can't get through it or over it.
That's right.
Like they're keep going to the same thing. Like they're, you know, whether it be alcohol or whatever. It's like it's because you have something that you need to do work on and you can't do it. So you need someone to teach you how to do it so you can get through it, right? Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck.
Yeah, man. And you know, we were talking about creativity. So praising your child will implore more creativity.
Right.
You're praising them for the things that they value, that they feel good about.
Right.
Right. And if that didn't happen to you as a child, because I know it didn't happen to me, you sort of feel like you lack purpose, and you kind of lack like this ability to just create in your adult life.
Right.
And, you know, passion and purpose is, I mean, I believe it's everything. Like it's what lights you up.
Right.
You know, you got your 9 to 5, whatever, but what's your passion? what do you feel like is your purpose? Like what excites you? What activates all those things? Because that's actually why we're here.
Yeah.
To experience those things.
Right. I call that your first purpose is you. Your second purpose is how you help people. Right. So it's like whatever tool you have, whatever way that you can connect to people, that's your second purpose. Like your first purpose is your self-expression, being the best you can be. Your second purpose is how can I help people now that I'm on a stronger foundation? How can I help people around me? You know what I mean? And that comes out in, you know, in multiple ways. Some people write music and they play sad songs or happy songs, and other people write books, and you know, whatever it is. Like there's many ways that you can help people. There's millions and millions and millions of ways. You know what I mean? We all think it's this one candid thing, but there's millions of ways, right?
Yeah, I mean, my way of helping people is through breathwork and ceremony.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when I started it, I wasn't like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do.
Right.
I'm gonna start doing this on my own now, and blah 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 blah. No, it just sort of naturally started happening.
Right.
In the ceremonies, people were talking to me more. They started telling me, you know, the problems and asking for like a perspective. And then I started realizing that like, wow, like I'm actually really good at giving people perspective on what they're going through. Right. And then the people that I did my healing work with, they asked me to come start assisting and helping.
Right.
And that's where everything expanded. And then I was like, I had started to have some friends, and they were like, oh, I want to do that, but I don't have, you know, $700 to go to the ceremony. And I was like, and I knew they were not financially able to they actually didn't have the money.
It wasn't a priority thing.
Not even, they just didn't have the money. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it for you. And I was like, oh, I feel like I know what I'm doing. And then my first ceremony, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I need courses.
Yeah.
And that's why I took the NAPS plant medicine facilitator course.
Right.
That's why I took the breathwork course.
Right.
Because it just gave me all these skills and confidence. And, now I call it 100% success rate.
Really? Pretty confident. I like it. Got to be confident though.
Well, you can deem success as like somebody uncovering something that they didn't know was there,
Yeah.
and actually processing it.
Right.
That to me is a success.
100%.
Whether they're going to come back as a practitioner, healer, whatever, you can't be attached to that outcome.
Right.
So your job is to show up neutral.
Right.
Right? Just there to be support, show them that there's a different way, but it's up to them to choose it. Right?
Yeah, I guess the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Exactly.
Yeah, they got to drink it. They got to want it. So I want to go more into, I don't know how long it's been. I haven't been watching the clock. I feel like we've been a while, but I'm curious about this topic. This goes into
ask me whatever.
Yeah, this goes into healing, like psychedelics, mushrooms, ayahuasca. How does someone know what they need? How can someone? I want to do some ayahuasca. I want to do some mushrooms. How do we determine? How can we figure this out? How somebody's, maybe something's holding them back and they don't know what it is. Maybe there's something there. Maybe they're not aware of what it is. There's a block. They know there's something's going on. I have the same experience every job I go to. I don't know what's going on, whatever that is. How do we dissect that? Well,
if you're not aware of the childhood traumas that you suffered, so you think back to your childhood and you're like, I had a great childhood. I never had any problems.
Right.
Chances are you were pretty unaware of actually what you went through. Right? Or people say something like, oh, what I went through wasn't that bad. I turned out okay.
Right.
Those are the people that are in denial of what they went through. They just don't know, because they're actually so disconnected from how they feel that they can't actually even access those memories. Right? For me, my childhood's like a blip of memories. That's it. A couple memories here and there, and most of them are traumatic.
Right.
I can barely remember the other stuff. I see pictures and then things start to come back a little bit. But it's because I was in a constant state of fight or flight survival mode, right? So my brain just dissociated from everything. So when somebody is feeling stuck, or, they're hitting these walls in their life, they're stressed, they don't know what to do, I usually talk to them and I tell them, let's start with breath work. Naturally, people are going to want to go for the most extreme like I did and be like, hey, but I actually learned from that. Right? And that's why I say, okay, let's start with some breath work. Let's see what comes up.
Right.
Right? Because, the number one goal is to do no harm.
Yep.
Right? You don't want to take somebody into something too soon, traumatize them, and then have them just go about their life and
make it even worse for them.
Yeah, now that's horrible, right?
Yeah.
So breath work is a great way to start. Like, there's no medicine, there's no, you're not dealing with a psychedelic, illegal substance, whatever. There's nothing to work through. It's just you and your breath and being vulnerable. It's really the first step is being vulnerable. One of the courses that I took, they talk about how committed to the truth are you, like every day, because the number one most authentic attachment is to the truth of who and what you are.
Right.
Like the real truth of who and what you are.
Yeah, not your ego.
And you think of this example, someone says, oh, I'm an introvert.
Right.
It's like, okay, really? Let's unpack that for a second. So if I were to ask your parents when you were 3 years old, if you were an introvert, what do you think they would say?
Probably not.
Probably not. Something happened
along
when
the
you
way.
were a child that made you
Yeah.
go inward, and you were traumatized, and you realized like, it's just better if I keep my mouth shut and don't say anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go through
Every
that
time
again.
every time I brought up my emotions, I get shut down. I better not bring up my emotions anymore.
Exactly.
Better be-
and then you'd carry that story for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That you're this introvert, and then that's not the truth of who and what you are.
Yeah.
So every time you're attaching to the falsity of
Right.
who and what you are, that's the most lethal, like, worst attachment, right? Because it's just going to open up all these other, like, victim, shame, guilt,
Right.
everything.
Right.
It just all come raining down.
So we need to start in breath work so we can kind of
Right.
start peeling back the onion, so to speak, and start to see what's
Exactly.
there.
You know, and then you can kind of look at things like one at a time. Like, you don't know where to start. You don't know what's going to come up. You have an intention,
Right.
right? You say, okay, this is happening in my life. I want to focus on this, blah, 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 blah. But once you start breathing the medicine, which is your breath, your body knows what you need to go through.
Right.
Your body knows what you need to feel. And it will just start, it will come up.
Right.
And it will just feel it.
Right.
And people say things like, wow, I didn't know that I was going to think about that today. Or I didn't realize that this is what it was going to be about, because I was thinking I wanted financial independence and all this other stuff, right?
Right.
So that's just kind of how it works. And when it comes to plant medicine, because I learned the hard way, starting with ayahuasca, I always coach people to start with psilocybin. Like,
Right.
you know.
Magic mushrooms for those
Exactly.
in Radio Land that don't know what that is.
And recently, actually, also started working with DMT.
Really?
Which has been...
The gentleman's drug.
it's all medicine. And I don't call any of it drugs. But it's actually really good for people who are scared of the psilocybin journey,
Right.
because it's a shorter period of time
Right.
and it's less intense.
Mm.
And so basically you have somebody that's building this up in their head as this big scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what's going to happen. They're going to freak out. And I did it when I was 16. I was at a party and everything went crazy. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the absolute worst place you could probably try something.
Exactly.
An impressionable child, and you're still a child at that age. You're a
yeah.
child, and you're doing a big drug like that, or whatever you want to call it, experience. You know, not
Medicine.
a drug, medicine. Sorry. I mean, that's so funny. I know so many people that have like, oh yeah, I ate a big fistful of mushrooms, and I had a panic attack, and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, it's the worst thing you could have done.
Well, here's how I explain people's bad trips.
Right.
Okay. I say, you know, set and setting for these ceremonies, breath
Right.
work, medicine journeys are everything, right? You want to be in a place where you feel safe, a calm environment. If you were at a party around all these people and all these energies, you take this medicine, it's actually opening you up to feel everyone's energy.
Right.
So that feeling of overwhelm comes from that. It's too much to handle. You're feeling into this guy's trauma, that guy's trauma, this guy's attitude, and it's hitting you all at once. And it becomes overwhelming. You don't know how to process it. Plus, you're feeling all your own shit that's
Right.
coming up. And now you're just,
Lost.
you're just going in a loop. And the more you resist, it persists, because the medicine's like, no, I want you to feel this.
Right.
Like, no, like, stay with
Right.
it, stay with it. This is
So
this
keeps
is what I-
hammering
this
you,
is the
hammering
plan I
you,
had for
hammering
you,
you.
right?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is the plan I had for you.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, I'm not ready.
Yeah. So intention probably matters then too when deciding to go into these kinds of experiences.
Intention, yes, it's very important, because then you're using it consciously. You're making a conscious choice or decision, like saying, this is my guiding star, like this is what I want to work on
Right.
today. This is my focus. You know, and they have that saying, like, you know, energy goes where attention flows, right? So when you're focused on something, there's going to be an outcome.
Right.
And in the beginning, I would have these intentions, and, you know, they wouldn't necessarily line up with my journeys, but I would get something out of them. And then now, you know, I've done maybe somewhere around 25 psilocybin journeys. my intention lines up perfectly every single time. Like whatever I come there to work on,
Right.
that's the work that gets done.
Interesting.
You know, if I need to process something that I'm not able to process, like let's say, you know, been back getting into a fight with the wife, a common argument with my wife, it's like, I'm not validating her feelings. I'm not giving her empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why? Because I don't understand what she's feeling right now.
Right.
Right? And because empathy and compassion was never given to me as a kid,
How can you give it?
how can I access that?
Right.
Especially in a state where if it's about me
Right.
not doing it,
Right.
right? I become defensive.
Mm-hmm.
So then I go into ceremony with my intention is to focus on why I'm lacking this empathy and compassion and where is it coming from, right? And then you go into those memories and you go into your way of being and you start to feel, you actually feel real empathy and compassion for something that she's going through. You think of a scenario where somebody happens and all of a sudden you feel this empathy and compassion in your heart and you're like, holy shit, like I have access to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you come out of the journey, you feel connected to yourself, you're connected to your heart, and then you're like, well, I need to integrate this and try to put it forth, right?
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, community is really important. Having people you can practice this kind of stuff with, you know, integrate what happened, talk about it more and more and more. It's a huge benefit, right?
Yeah.
So I try to do with people is like I set up follow-up appointments, I check in, you know, I open the lines of communication, which is really huge because some of these circles, it's like next to impossible to get a hold of the people that are in charge.
Right.
Because they've been doing it for 30, 40 years.
Right.
So you could imagine their list of people, if they just answered every single call, right? They just be endless.
Yeah.
Day after day.
Yeah.
This
I can
person,
only
this person's calling me like, "Rrr."
I can only imagine too, because like if you go through that positive experience with that person, that guide, you're going to be very attached to that person.
Yes.
You're going to feel very connected to that person. It's part of, you know, it's part of the journey.
Yeah.
So they're connected to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. That's a big burden.
Well, that becomes the work too, right? As
Yeah.
you start to realize, like, you know, you need to be looking more inward for the answers, right? Instead of
Yeah, that's
outward,
great.
right?
Yeah.
You know, part of what we always say is like, everything you need is inside of you. You just don't believe it.
Right.
So you come to the ceremony, and all we're doing is getting you to believe in yourself,
Right.
getting you to understand that you actually do
Yeah.
have the answers. It's just your programs and everything are getting in the way from you actually believing it. Because once you believe it, that shapes your behaviors and now shapes your reality.
Right.
Boom, done.
Yeah. I left my computer on. My apologies. So, I mean,
It's actually good timing.
yeah. Ding. I feel like I could keep going on this topic. Like I could probably have you back and keep going on this topic because I find it so interesting, and we haven't even gotten into the deep spiritual healing stuff, which is the whole reason why you start this journey. Is like we're talking about breathwork. Yeah, breathwork's the beginning, but it's like there's this. I mean, you don't just do breathwork one time.
No.
It's like you said, it's a lifestyle. Right? Like this is a way of life where you're healing, continually healing and evolving and growing and putting the work in. So I mean, I'm a million questions that we can go into and stuff like this, but I'm worried about the time. So you're gonna have to come back.
There's multiple facets. Like we only touched on certain things with the answer model and how it works.
What's
and
the answer model?
The answer model was the addiction to
Right.
beta endorphin.
Right.
And, you know, there's lots of things there, and there's lots of stuff that I've been exposed to that I'd love to share and talk about. And
Well, do you have something that you want? Something that's on the top
no,
of your
like
mind?
you were saying, you were gonna have me back.
I gotta
or
have you
something.
back.
Like then,
Yeah.
there's lots. Yeah.
Yeah, I always ask people, imagine that you can live as long as you want. Okay, this is a hypothetical scenario. I'm going to ask you three questions, or ask you a question following it. You can live as long as you want, and you can accomplish everything that you want in this lifetime. And Unfortunately, at a certain point, the lights have to go out, and you have to go into the next place, whatever that is. But in this scenario, all of your work is gone. All of your work is destroyed. You can't leave anything behind. It's gone, except for 3 truths. What are the 3 truths that you would leave behind, that you know to be true?
The toughest question in all of the podcast.
That's why I saved it for the last.
But the 3 truths.
3 truths that you've learned that you know to be true in life, that you could leave behind if you
to
could, like future generations, your children, future
children.
generations, you would want them to know 3 things. What would they be? And there is no wrong answer.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's so many swirling into my head right now. Just trying to think. 3 top truths. I want to say, I mean, number 1, it would legitimately be to just be yourself. Whatever that looks like. Be yourself and be happy with that self. Express it. Be that. No matter what anybody says or thinks, be yourself. Number 2 is learn how to love yourself. Love yourself. You know, if you're being yourself and you're loving yourself, you're already doing the 2 most important things in my mind in your life. And number 3 is, I would say build a community. You know, have friends, have family, have people that you care about, that you look out for, they care about you, you find important, you work out your differences with them. You know, those are the 3 that come to my mind right now.
It's funny, I on to your 3rd point, I think those are great answers, by the way, for the record, so you nailed it. But I think we're in a pandemic of lack of connection in human society right now. I think we are so struggling for connection, actual real connection, like soul to soul connection. We're putting all of the attention on the wrong things. Materialism, buying, having. None of this can bring happiness long term. It is connection, that being yourself, loving yourself, connecting to people. That's what it's all about, right? At the end of the day, you can't bring anything with you, but you can leave behind the connection that you had. I mean, I often think of life like, what would you want people to say at your funeral? You're dead, you're gone. You can't say anything to correct the story that's going to be said about you. It's just, it is what it is. How do you want people to be acting at your funeral? You want them to be dancing? Finally, the Wicked Witch of the West is dead, or you know what I mean? Like, you got to live a life that people will miss you when you're gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Building connection is how you do that, because that's the only thing that really matters in life. Because, you know, everything can be taken away from you, but connection is who you are, right?
That's actually one of the exercises in the course that we do with people in addictions. It's called the reverse trauma healing method.
Yeah.
And it's called a funeral exercise.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Where you actually get the participant to write a eulogy for everybody in their family of what they would say about them right now. If they were to die, what would they say?
So the person writing it is his dad will write a eulogy. So he's going to write the eulogy his dad would say.
Right now, with the way that he's been treating him, the way he's showing up, whatever he's done in his life. Yeah. Then he's going to write a eulogy of what he wants him to say. And then that becomes the core values of what you actually care about.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the funeral exercise is amazingly impactful for group interventions.
Wow.
Yeah.
We didn't even get into this.
No.
This is so much.
That's what I said. There's so many different facets. This answer model by Todd Ritchie, this book that he wrote, Rewire Your Brain. I mean, he's a counselor. He created this psychology model, and he co-wrote the book with a biologist, an anthropologist, all these different things, and it goes back to hunter-gatherer and all this. The brain does this and this. It's so in-depth. Yeah. It covers every single modality of psychology,
Right.
all in one model.
What's this book called again?
I'm pretty sure the book is called Change Your Brain, Rewire Your Brain.
Okay.
Right. But if you were to look up Todd Ritchie.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes up.
This is definitely up my alley. These are the type of books I love to go through. I love to read it. People forget that we are 2 million year old animals. You know what I mean? We've been around for a long time. They say 200,000, 350,000 years as we are now. Mm-hmm. So we've been living the same type of way for a long, long time. And it's only in the last 100 years we've had this, 150 years now, I guess, with the technology and the change in the world and stuff like that. Everyone thinks that we're just going to like evolve past what we've been for the last 2 million years. No. You're still the same. You're still this.
We're identical.
Totally.
It's called evolutionary mismatch.
Right.
That's what they call it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's like, I just find it so funny that we just think so quickly that like, oh yeah, we're all going to be different now. It's like, no. You're still firing on that old, monkey brain you mentioned earlier, right? You still got those old things going on that are subconscious under the surface there. They're still operating, right?
Yeah, man. Well, bring in the breath work, bring in the awareness, and see the change,
Well, I think that's the start for pretty much everyone. Start with some breath work and see where your journey goes. I think a lot of people are they're not living optimally. They're not optimizing their life, what they could be. They're surviving. They're getting through.
Yeah.
Oh, gotta get through. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, work sucks. It's supposed to suck. Since when? Like you could be sweeping the streets like Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel. You could be living a life of purpose in the mundane, but people don't understand that because they're not consciously living.
You could even take it one step before, like you're scared to try breath work. How about you just try connecting with somebody? Like actually connecting with them about what they're having trouble with, how they feel. Try expressing how you feel, and just watch the blocks and the uncomfortability that comes up in those moments, and see, like, that was the start for me. I'm in the group therapy that I did this life review. It was this, we got together with like 8 people, and you wrote down your most traumatic childhood event, right? And then you had to read it in front of the group of people.
Wow.
Right. And as I read my story, and I look up, and like everybody's crying in the room, like the psychologists, the participants, they're all crying. And I was just like, the first moment I ever really like just like felt that feeling, like, oh, like what I went through was actually fucking hard and shitty.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then when the other person would read their story, you had to do the same. You couldn't give them advice. You couldn't fix it. You actually had to speak on how it made you feel. Right? It's like accessing that feeling instead of using your mind.
Yeah, which we've been taught our entire lives not to do, basically.
So before you do breath work, try to access some feelings. And then move in.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you can put my number. I have one of my good friends, Dr. Nick. Like, he's an ex-doctor. He was a medical doctor for like a dozen years. He suffered burnout. He got out of the game. He does breath work. He does. He's more of like the online guy as well. I can do Zoom and online. I just prefer in person. It's so much better.
Way more connection.
Yeah, I'm not looking to like reach all these places. I just want to reach whoever's looking for it.
Yeah.
Whoever
help those that you
is in my vicinity.
Yeah.
And whoever actually wants to do the work and heal. Those are the people I want to work with.
Yeah, those are your people.
Really only have, my time is valuable.
Yeah, I know. For those that don't know, this is not what he does to pay the bills. He's got a massive business that you built up over 20 years. You've been doing it?
21 years,
21 years doing rebar?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you purely do breath work as a service that you love.
It's a passion, man.
Yeah.
Just like this podcast for you. It's something that, fills me up. And I always say, we got the hard interview one time, and they're like, oh, what my shaman, and we had all these participants, and they line us up, and they're like, what do you get out of coming to these ceremonies? What's the single most thing that you get? And I was like, for me, it's like the ability to actually witness people process things is something I never got to experience as a child.
Right.
Because everything was shoved down, and my dad and everything, nothing was expressed.
Right.
So now I actually get to witness that.
Right.
Right. And be a part of that with other people. I'm like, to me, that's like, it's the coolest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's cool. It makes me want to get more involved in this world. You know what I mean? It makes me want to come to more ceremonies or try ceremonies myself, like the psilocybin or the ayahuasca. You're saying you don't need to swing for the fences, Merrick, but
you need to.
God, I love swinging for the fences.
I don't like to pressure people. I don't like to reach out and force people into things.
Yeah.
I need them to choose.
Mm-hmm.
But people need it.
Yeah.
Like my last ceremony was December 28th, and I need one pretty soon here.
Interesting.
Because every couple months, you go through, you integrate with what you learned, and then you hit like a new wall with something.
Plateau, yeah.
Right? And you're just like, I feel like I need to go deeper into this, and you're ready for it. And all of a sudden you go into it, and it's like, opens up your world. And
right.
It's just an amazing experience when it's done with the right person.
Yeah, when you're evolving, there's no end to it. And that's the thing, like when I tell someone that their life purpose is themselves, they hate that answer. They hate it. They don't want that answer. They want to do or have. They don't want to work on themselves, right? But it's like the more that you work on yourselves, the more you unfold yourself, the more there is to work on, the more there is to grow, the more there is that you understand of yourself, that you're going to understand of yourself. It's a beautiful process, and it never stops, and it shouldn't stop. I don't want to be, as they say, I don't want to be someone who dies with the music inside of them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You've got a concerto inside of you, and you're not willing to put pen to paper. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the person that dies without giving to the world what he was meant to give to the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
I think there's so many people doing that. And and you're the only person who's ever been you, and you're not giving the world what you were supposed to. Sad. Super sad. Right? That's the one thing you'll always regret in your deathbed. Oh, I got old so fast. I wasted so much time. I should have done X, Y, and Z when I had the energy. It's like, I don't want to be that dude. I know now.
Exactly.
Like I'm 37. And I'm coming up on 40, you know what I mean? And it's like, you only have energy once. You only have so much energy,
I'll be 40 in June.
Yeah. Lots of time. Yeah. Dude, I really appreciate this. Yeah, I do mean it when I say, I got to have you back. I got to do part 2 with you, because
sure.
I think we're just getting onto the surface here. There's so much to go down this road of healing, evolving, that I think people need to hear it. And that's really, like you said, it's a passion project for me, this podcast. It's because I really want to connect people. Like, you were actually one of the very first people that I thought of that I wanted to have on my podcast, because I want to connect people who need to be connected to people. Mm-hmm. That's what this podcast is for me. It's not a real estate podcast. Yeah. I'm in real estate. Nobody cares. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you care when you need to buy or sell your house, then you're going to come ask me how the market's doing. But that's not what I want. I'm not here to talk about the market. I want to connect people. I want to help people evolve and grow. And that's literally what it's for. So I hope that there's the person listening, driving in their car right now, an hour and a half to a job they don't like, that is like, oh, I'm going to reach out and talk to Matt because I need to. And that's what this whole purpose is for. Because I know there's a whole another layer of stuff that we could start pulling back the onion on that I think we need to. I think there's people that need to hear it. So, yeah.
Well, that's when we make it more personal about you.
About me?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, that's the best way to learn is through the exercises. If I kind of put you in the hot seat and sort of do some of the processes with you.
Okay. I'm open for that.
It's the best way for,
Yeah, I'm open for that.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair ask. I'll do that. I'll do that. And I like, again, I'll put myself on the line for the listeners in the listening audience. I'll be truthful and I'll be open, and I'm open to doing that.
Yeah.
That's not an easy ask, so it's good. That's what I need. That's the work I need. The results I'm looking for are in the work I'm choosing to avoid.
Exactly.
Those are where the results are. So I want to be, my goal is to be the best me I can be, so I can be the best father I can be, the best husband, the best me I can be. That's my goal. So I'm down for that.
I learned a little while ago that anything I feel resistance to is something I need to lean into.
Totally.
I'm not talking about jumping out of a plane.
No, I know what you mean.
I mean, like, there's this guy that I met, and he has this channel, and he does this, and then my friend once introduced me to him, and I'm like, I don't know, and I start judging the guy, and I don't know, and then all of a sudden I meet the guy, and it's just like sparks and everything, and I'm like, wow, I could learn a lot from this guy. And all of a sudden that judgment, the ego's gone, and you're just experiencing each other, and you're like, holy crap, wow, why did I listen to that resistance
the
this
ego
whole time? It was keeping me from this amazing relationship that I now have.
Yeah.
Right?
That's awesome.
So the things you feel the most resistant to, lean into those. That's where the growth is, man.
It's good stuff, buddy.
Yeah,
well, thanks for coming on.
Right on.
You'll be back on, and next time I'll put you in the driver's seat, and you can ask your questions, and we'll go through. I think it's a great way to show people the work that they can do to themselves, and the release of trauma that they can have and experience and stuff like that. So I think that's great, dude.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.